Margaret Court still has 24 Grand Slams, nobody ever passed her. In tennis, numbers tell stories, and when it comes to Grand Slam singles titles, the biggest number belongs to Margaret Court, 24. It's the benchmark that has towered over the sport for half a century. Serena Williams chased it for nearly a decade but retired with 23. Steffi Graf, as dominant as she was, stopped at 22. Even Novak Djokovic, with his record-breaking haul, sits behind Court when it comes to singles slams. Court's journey to this record is as fascinating as the number itself. Born in Albury, Australia, in 1942, she grew up playing on rough asphalt and grass courts with rackets that weighed twice as much as modern graphite ones. Her rise was meteoric by 1960. At just 17 years old, she had already won her first Australian Open. That was the beginning of a career that would stretch across 4 different decades, with titles in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds. She was a powerhouse in an era dominated by finesse. Standing over 5'9", Court's serve and volley game combined raw athleticism with relentless aggression. She was one of the first female players to bring a fitness-driven approach to the sport, lifting weights and running sprints, while others still viewed tennis as more about elegance than endurance. Her dominance in Australia was unmatched. She won the Australian Open 11 times, including 7 in a row from 1,960 to 1,966. But she wasn't just a local hero. Court won 5 French Opens, 3 Wimbledons, and 5 US Opens, becoming one of only 3 women in history to win a calendar Grand Slam all 4 majors in a single year, 1,970. And if we count doubles and mixed doubles, Court numbers explode. She won 64 Grand Slam titles in total, 19 more than Serena and 25 more than Federer or Nadal, combined across singles and doubles. It's a mountain of silverware that may never be climbed again. Of course, the Court's legacy comes with controversy. In recent years, her public comments on social issues have overshadowed her sporting achievements, sparking debates about whether her name should remain on Melbourne's Margaret Court Arena. But the numbers themselves remain unchallenged. Here's the brutal truth: in today's era, no one may ever touch 24 singles slams. The competition is deeper, the travel harder, and careers shorter due to the physical grind. Court did it in an age of wooden rackets, no sports science, and minimal prize money, yet her record still towers above the billion-dollar modern game. For as long as tennis is played, Margaret Court's 24 will be the Everest that every champion stares up at and wonders if it can ever be climbed again. Djokovic owns Melbourne with 10 Australian Opens. When tennis players land in Melbourne every January, there's one unspoken truth: Novak Djokovic owns this place. He's the only man in history to win the Australian Open 10 times, a record that doesn't just stand, it shouts. Djokovic's first title came in 2008 when he was just 20 years old. Back then, Roger Federer had a stranglehold on the game, Rafael Nadal was conquering clay, and Djokovic was the fiery outsider with endless stamina and a baseline game built for grind. He took out Federer in the semis and Jo-Wilfried Tsonga in the final, announcing himself to the world. Then came the true era of domination. From 2011 to 2016, Djokovic made Melbourne his fortress. He won 5 titles in 6 years, with battles that defined tennis's golden age. In 2012, his final against Nadal lasted 5 hours and 53 minutes, the longest Grand Slam final ever played. Djokovic collapsed to the court at 1:37 a.m., barely able to stand, while Nadal leaned on the net for support. Both men were spent, but Djokovic had his hands on the trophy again. What makes his Australian Open streak so incredible isn't just the wins, but the perfection. Djokovic has never lost a final in Melbourne. Every time he reached that Sunday showdown, he left with the trophy. His record? 10 finals, 10 wins, flawless. He adapted too. Early in his career, it was defense and sliding on the hard court that set him apart. Later, it was precise serving, unshakable focus, and an almost robotic ability to reset after setbacks. Even when controversy swirled like his deportation saga in 2022 over vaccination rules, Djokovic returned in 2023 with vengeance, crushing Stefanos Tsitsipas for his 10th crown. He did it with a hamstring injury, barely flinching, and reclaimed the No.1 ranking the same night. Let's throw in some stats. Djokovic has won 89 matches at the Australian Open and lost only 8. His win rate in Melbourne sits at an absurd 91%. By comparison, Nadal's win rate at Roland Garros is higher, 97%, but no one else on hard courts comes close to Djokovic's Australian dominance. For most players, one slam defines a career. For Djokovic, Melbourne is practically his second home. The blue courts, the raucous Rod Laver Arena, the late-night finishes, all of it belongs to him. And if history tells us anything, he's not done yet. Borg won Wimbledon 5 times straight with a wooden racket. Wimbledon is where legends are made, and in the late 1,970 seconds, nobody embodied that more than Bjorn Borg. Between 1,976 and 1,980, the cool, long-haired Swede won 5 consecutive Wimbledon titles, a streak so iconic it stood untouched until Roger Federer matched it decades later. Here's the thing, Borg did it with a wooden racket. No graphite, no high-tech strings, no oversized sweet spots. Just wood, gut strings, and a style that blended baseline consistency with net rushing when it mattered. At the time, Wimbledon was dominated by serve, and volleyers think John McEnroe, Jimmy Connors, Roscoe Tanner. But Borg broke that mold, bringing his heavy topspin forehand and rock-solid two-handed backhand to grass, a surface thought to be impossible for baseline grinders. His first title in 1976 was historic in itself. Borg didn't lose a single set throughout the tournament. He was only 20 years old, becoming the youngest men's champion of the modern era at that time. By 1977, the pressure was already mounting, but Borg defended his title against Jimmy Connors in 4 sets. Then came 1978, when he completely dismantled Connors in straight sets, dropping just 6 games in the final. The streak peaked in 1980 in what many call the greatest match of the 20th century, Borg versus John McEnroe in the Wimbledon final. The 4th set went to a legendary tiebreak, lasting 34 points. McEnroe finally won it 18-16. Most players would have folded after that heartbreak. Borg? He came back in the 5th set and won 8-6, sealing his 5th straight crown. That match pulled in television audiences of over 20 million in the US alone, unheard of for tennis at the time. Borg's Wimbledon record during this run was staggering, 41 consecutive match wins on grass. He didn't lose a match at Wimbledon for 5 years. His dominance helped turn tennis into primetime entertainment. He was a global superstar, mobbed by fans wherever he went, nicknamed the Iceman for his stoic demeanor. What makes this record even more special is context. Grass was faster back then, with uneven bounces and slick surfaces. Wooden rackets made controlling volleys and baseline rallies harder. Yet Borg adapted better than anyone, changing tennis style forever by proving baseliners could conquer grass. And just like that, after 1980, he walked away. Borg retired at just 26. His 5 straight Wimbledon titles still stand as one of the purest streaks in sports history. Chris Evert won 125 clay matches and only lost 13 impossible numbers. Chris Evert's dominance on clay wasn't just impressive, it was absurd. Her career record of 125 wins and only 13 losses on the slowest, grittiest surface in tennis translates to a 90.6% win rate. To put that in perspective, Rafael Nadal, the so-called king of clay, owns a career win rate of around 91.3% on the surface. Evert built hers in an era with no fancy racket technology, no Hawkeye, and slower, heavier balls that made every rally a test of patience. Her clay supremacy stretched across 2 decades. Between 1973 and 1979, she went on an unbeatable streak of 125 consecutive clay court victories, a record that remains untouched in men's or women's tennis. That streak included 24 straight titles. Literally every clay event she entered for 6 years ended with her holding the trophy. No breaks, no off weeks, just relentless precision. Evert's style was tailor-made for clay. She wasn't flashy. She didn't rely on raw power. Instead, she built points brick by brick with relentless baseline consistency and laser-sharp placement. Her two-handed backhand rare in the 1,970 seconds was like a scalpel, carving angles opponents couldn't reach. Add in her mental toughness, and you had a player who almost never beat herself with errors. At the French Open, her numbers tell the story. Evert won 7 Roland Garros titles: 1,974, 1,975, 1,979, 1,980, 1,983, 1,985, 1,986, a record that stood until Steffi Graf tied it. And then Nadal blew past it. But for women's tennis, she set the gold standard. Her clay court dominance was so consistent that it forced rivals like Martina Navratilova to completely reinvent their games just to compete with her in Paris. What's crazy is that her clay career wasn't just about domination, it was about longevity. Evert was still winning French Opens in her 32nds, more than a decade after her first. Her final French crown came in 1986, when she beat a 21-year-old Martina Navratilova, proving experience and precision could still topple power and youth. Evert's 125-13 record will likely never be broken. Modern tennis schedules don't allow players to rack up that many clay matches, and the physical grind makes such consistency almost impossible today. Her record isn't just a number, it's a reminder that patience, precision, and iron willpower can make someone nearly unbeatable. Venus and Serena played 14 slam doubles finals and won every single one. Venus and Serena Williams didn't just play doubles, they owned it. Across their careers, the sisters reached 14 Grand Slam doubles finals, and they won all 14. That's not just dominance, that's perfection. No other doubles team in history has gone undefeated in slam finals like that. Their first big statement came at the 1,999 French Open, when Venus was 18 and Serena just 17. They stormed through the draw and took the final in straight sets. That was their debut slam doubles title, and it set the tone for the next 2 decades. Across those 14 titles, they collected 6 Wimbledon doubles crowns, 4 Australian Opens, 2 French Opens, and 2 US Opens. Every time they reached the biggest stage, they closed the deal. No nerves, no letdowns. Finals pressure? Irrelevant. Their chemistry was freakish. While most doubles pairs need years to build trust and timing, Venus and Serena had been playing together since childhood. They didn't have to signal poaches or communicate mid-point, they just knew. Venus's wingspan at the net covered half the court, while Serena's serve and return applied pressure from the baseline. Together, they smothered opponents. What makes this streak even crazier is that doubles was never their main focus. Both sisters prioritized singles careers, where they won a combined 30 slam singles titles, 23 for Serena, 7 for Venus. Yet when they teamed up, they transformed into an unstoppable unit. They also thrived under Olympic lights. Venus and Serena won 3 Olympic doubles, gold medals, 2000 Sydney, 2008 Beijing, 2012 London. That makes them the most decorated tennis doubles pair in Olympic history. Their dominance also came in waves. They'd disappear from doubles for years, then reappear, and pick up exactly where they left off. In 2008, after a 5-year break from slam doubles, they reunited at Wimbledon and won the title without dropping a set. Here's the kicker: when they won their 14th slam doubles crown at Wimbledon 2016, Serena was already 34 years old. Most doubles teams peak early, the Williams sisters peaked forever. This record of 14 0-inches slam finals is likely untouchable. No pair has ever had their mix of raw talent, big match nerve, and sibling telepathy. Guillermo Vilas once won 46 matches in a row back in 1977. Guillermo Vilas wasn't just Argentina's first tennis superstar, he was a machine in 1977. That year, he strung together a 46-match winning streak, the longest in men's tennis at the time. To put that into perspective, most players dream of winning 5 matches in a row to take a single title. Vilas won 7 titles back-to-back without losing once. The streak started on clay, his favorite surface, but it didn't stay there. Vilas took his winning ways across 3 continents and multiple surfaces: clay, hard courts, and even grass. By the time the streak ended, he had collected titles in 7 straight tournaments, including the French Open and the US Open, played on clay in 1977. The US Open win was particularly historic. Vilas beat Jimmy Connors in 4 sets in the final, becoming the first South American man to win the US Open. That victory made him a national hero back in Argentina, where he's still revered as one of the greatest athletes the country has ever produced. His streak ended in October 1977 at Aix-en-Provence, when Ilie Nastas beat him under bizarre circumstances. Nastas used an oversized spaghetti-strung racket that generated unnatural spin. The racket was banned days later by the ITF, but the loss had already snapped Vilas's run at 46 straight wins. For years, fans argued Vilas's streak should have counted as longer. Some claimed he actually won 53 inches a row, but because of sketchy record-keeping and rule disputes, the official ATP number stayed at 46. Still, that stood as the record until 2006, when Roger Federer put together a 41-match streak and Novak Djokovic later broke it with 43 inches 2011. But even those didn't match Vilas's original run. The raw numbers of Vilas's 1,977 season are insane. 16 titles, 145 match wins, and over $500,000 in prize money, a huge amount for the 1,970 seconds. His clay court dominance was unmatched, and he ended the year as World No. 2. Many argue he deserved the year-end No. 1 ranking, but the ATP's ranking system at the time didn't reward volume of wins the way it does now. For Argentina, though, he wasn't just No. 1, he was a pioneer. Vilas inspired a generation of players like Juan Martín del Potro and Gabriela Sabatini. His streak in '77 wasn't just about numbers, it was the start of Argentina's love affair with tennis. Monica Seles became world number 1 at just 17 years old. Monica Seles didn't just arrive on the women's tennis scene, she detonated on it. In 1991, at only 17 years and 3 months old, she became the youngest ever world No. 1. That wasn't a fluke. By then, she already had 4 Grand Slam titles in her pocket. What made Seles different was her style. She hit with 2 hands on both sides, both forehand and backhand, a technique that looked strange at first but gave her unmatched control and power. Add to that her famous grunt, which rattled opponents, and you had a teenager who didn't play like anyone before her. From 1990 to 1992, Seles dominated the sport in a way few ever have. She won 8 of the 9 Grand Slam finals she reached, including 3 straight French Opens, 2 Australian Opens, and 1 US Open. She also claimed the 1991 and 1992 WTA finals. By the time she turned 19, she had already collected 8 slams, putting her on pace to rewrite history books. At the 1991 Australian Open, she became the youngest winner in tournament history at just 17. That same year, she ended Steffi Graf's long reign at No. 1, snapping her 186-week streak at the top. But here's where the story takes a tragic turn. In 1993, while playing a quarterfinal in Hamburg, Seles was stabbed in the back by a deranged fan of Graf. The attack wasn't fatal, but it derailed her career for over 2 years. At the time, she was just 19 and already had 8 majors. Without that break, tennis historians believe she could have easily pushed past 20-plus Grand Slam titles, rivaling Serena and Court. Even after the comeback, Seles still won another 1,996 Australian Open and finished her career with 9 Slam titles. But the sense of what could have been never left the sport. Many call her the greatest unfinished story in tennis. Her record as the youngest ever No. 1 still stands. Even teenage prodigies like Martina Hingis, who reached number 1 at 16, and Iga Swiatek's modern dominance haven't erased how revolutionary Seles was. For those who saw her play in the early 90 seconds, it wasn't just tennis, it was witnessing a hurricane in human form. Goran Ivanišević is still the only wildcard who ever won Wimbledon. Goran Ivanišević had been Wimbledon's heartbreak kid for almost a decade. He'd reached the final 3 times in the 1,990 seconds, losing to Andre Agassi in 1992, then twice to Pete Sampras in 1994 and 1998. Each time he came close, each time he left crushed. By the end of the 90 seconds, his career looked finished. Injuries piled up, his ranking plummeted, and by 2001, he was ranked number 125 inches the world. Normally, that meant no chance of even playing Wimbledon. But Goran got in as a wild card, a slot usually reserved for young prospects or national favorites. Nobody expected much. Some thought he'd lose early and fade quietly into retirement. Instead, he produced the most unlikely 2 weeks in tennis history. Match after match, his booming lefty serve, often topping 130 miles per hour, carried him past higher-ranked opponent. He beat Carlos Moya, Andy Roddick, Marat Safin, and Tim Henman in an unforgettable rain-delayed semifinal that stretched over 3 days. By the time he reached the final, the entire world was rooting for him. The 2001 final against Pat Rafter turned into a classic. Played on People's Monday, the rare third Monday of Wimbledon due to rain delays, it was packed with rowdy fans who treated center court more like a football stadium than a prim tennis crowd. Goran, battling nerves, double faulted 20 times, but still found the courage to serve it out at 9-7 inches the fifth set. At 29 years old, Ivanišević finally won his first and only Grand Slam. He became the first and only wildcard ever to win Wimbledon, and to this day, no other wildcard has even come close. That win was more than a trophy, it was redemption. A man once defined by heartbreak walked away with the sport's most iconic crown. Fans still say Wimbledon 2001 wasn't just tennis history, it was proof that sport can deliver miracles. Ken Rosewall lifted a slam trophy at 37 oldest men's champ ever. Ken Rosewall's career is one of the strangest in tennis history because it stretched across 3 eras: the amateur days, the banned Pro Tour, and finally the Open era where everyone could play. By the time he won the 1,972 Australian Open at age 37, he had already been competing at the highest level for over 2 decades. Nicknamed Muscles, ironically, because he was small and wiry, just 5'7" and 145 pounds, Rosewall wasn't built like a powerhouse. Instead, he relied on precision, courtcraft, and one of the cleanest backhands ever struck. He first made a slam final in 1953 at just 18 years old. Nearly 20 years later, he was still there, lifting trophies. The 1,972 Australian Open wasn't a fluke, it was his 8th and final major singles title. Along the way, he beat rising stars who were literally half his age. In the final, he faced Mal Anderson, himself no youngster at 36, making it the oldest Grand Slam men's final in history, a record still standing today. Rosewall won in 4 sets, cementing himself as the oldest men's singles champion ever at a slam. But his story is even wilder when you realize how many titles he might have had. From 1,963 to 1,967, Rosewall was banned from Grand Slams because he had turned professional. In those 5 years, he was arguably the best player in the world, beating Rod Laver, Pancho Gonzalez, and Lou Hode on the pro circuit. Historians estimate he could have added at least 10 more majors if the rules hadn't excluded him. Even after 1972, he didn't fade away. He reached the Wimbledon final in 1974 at age 39, losing to Jimmy Connors. His career spanned 25 years, and he's still the only man to win slam titles, both as a teenager and as a near 40-year-old. Rosewall's longevity redefined what was possible in tennis. Before modern sports science and million-dollar physios, he proved that skill, fitness, and stubborn determination could outlast generations. Iga Świątek went on a 37-match streak and crushed a whole season. When Iga Świątek took over the tennis world in 2022, it wasn't just dominance, it was total suffocation of the field. Her 37-match winning streak became the longest run in women's tennis in the 21st century, eclipsing Serena Williams' 34-match streak from 2013. The run began in February at the Qatar Open. Świątek won the title, then rolled through Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back, completing the rare Sunshine Double. She didn't stop there. On clay, she became untouchable. Stuttgart, Rome, and then Roland Garros, all hers. For 4 months, she didn't lose a match. During this streak, she won 6 straight titles. Her victims weren't journeymen either. She beat Naomi Osaka, Aryna Sabalenka, Simona Halep, Ons Jabeur, and Coco Gauff, all in straight sets. At the French Open final, she thrashed Gauff 6-1, 6'3" inches, just over an hour. What made it even scarier was the way she won. Świątek averaged over 70% first serve points won across the streak, and in many matches, she lost fewer than 5 games total. Out of those 37 victories, 28 came in straight sets. The scorelines looked more like junior events than professional tour battles. The streak finally ended at Wimbledon, on grass, her least comfortable surface, against veteran Alizé Cornet. Still, by then, Świątek had already taken the world one ranking after Ashley Barty's retirement, and built a lead of over 4,000 points ahead of her nearest rival. That's a margin rarely seen in modern tennis. The significance of this streak goes beyond numbers. Women's tennis in the 2010 seconds had been marked by volatility, with 14 different slam champions between 2016 and 2020. Swiatek brought back a kind of dominance not seen since prime Serena. And keep this in mind, Swiatek was just 21 years old during that run. While most players her age are adjusting to life on tour, she was making history. Her 37-match streak stands as a warning shot. We may be witnessing the start of a dynasty. Thanks for watching. If you love these insane tennis records, smash that like button, subscribe for more untold stories, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Watch the next video, it's even wilder.